Good evening. Welcome to the New Coach Workshop for the First LEGO League program for First Washington. A lot of firsts in there. My name is Susan Martucci. I'm the program manager for First LEGO League in the Washington region. My email is right there on the front page and will also be on the last page so that you can find me if you have questions. We're going to run through let's get things moving. You're in a GoToWebinar, so just a couple little housekeeping hints here. I mentioned you are all muted. You may raise your hand by clicking the button there, and you may ask questions. The best place is to ask questions. I'll have somebody popping in occasionally to monitor those questions and make sure we cover everything that you need to know. I will go over a lot of information, however, so if you wait just a slide or two, I may get most of your questions answered. Couple other notes, this webinar is being recorded and the slide deck will be posted. Both of these will be available on our website, so you don't have to worry about writing down any of the links that I will be pointing to. We'll be able to find them later on. Whoops, going backwards. Nope, let's go forward. Little summary of what we are going to talk about tonight. I'm going to do a quick first overview. It turns out with a lot of new coaches, they're not actually comfortable with the whole first program that they're getting roped into. So we'll go over that just a little bit, talk a little bit about First LEGO League and what it is. We'll talk about your team, some coaching tips, what a tournament day looks like, and some resources. We are not going to go into the challenge or the project topic. That's not really my place. That is for your students and you to work on. I talk a lot, so unfortunately this information, a lot of this information, I'm throwing it at you. It's going to take us probably a little over an hour to get through this. I definitely try to be done in less than an hour and a half. It's a lot of information. That's why I wanted to make sure that you knew the slide deck will be posted. You can go back and review it at your own pace. So what is FIRST? This program and our mission in First Washington follows closely along with this is to inspire youth to become science and technology leaders. They can't do it if they don't know it's out there. So FIRST is a progression of 4 programs that really hope to inspire the young people, no matter what their age, to consider the STEM skills, science, technology, engineering, and math. They get a lot of hands-on work with this program, so it is very, very engaging for them. Couple of at-a-glance statistics. A lot of people don't know how big this program is. Top box there, over 400,000 students participated last year. That's over 200,000 volunteers, whether they're mentors, coaches, judges, event volunteers. It takes over 200,000 people to mentor and work with those 400,000 students. Over 16 million volunteer hours, $25 million in scholarships are available. That's for some of our older students, but if you are interested in that, please contact me. There is a lot of opportunity for FIRST students. More than 2,200 events worldwide. So that's kind of the scope of what this program is. It was founded back in 1989 by the inventor Dean Kamen. So the global headquarters is in Manchester, New Hampshire. There will be multiple times throughout this season that you will need to understand the difference between FIRST and then First Washington. They are 2 separate organizations. We are a partner with FIRST, but the FIRST headquarters or the first global or international first has a different role, and they're based out of Manchester, New Hampshire. That is a source of confusion for new coaches, and I'm going to hit it a little differently in a couple of slides so we can kind of gather those differences together. The statistics here again, one of the interesting pieces is the progression of programs. You'll see the arrows linked together. These programs are intended to move forward and overlap with each other. So you see some of the ages overlap, some of the programs even overlap to make sure that we are targeting all of the students at their appropriate age. This progression of programs, you never stop building upon yourself. So you could start this at age 6 and run all the way through your high school years, or towards the end of your high school career, you could jump in, or a student may be able to jump into First LEGO League for just 1 year only. It's not a program that somebody has to start from the beginning and go all the way to an end point. It is experiential learning throughout the whole process. So kids do come and go. Any participation with FIRST is found to give them kind of a leg up in interest in that STEM programs. 10 years of data is out there with FIRST right now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but if you are new to this program and are not familiar with how impactful it is on the students, you may want to take some time to read over this infographic. It's pretty remarkable numbers in terms of the impact that the students have on their direction and interest. Lots of good data there. Now, what is First Washington? First Washington, we are an organization, a nonprofit in Washington, that we promote all the FIRST programs for Washington State. That includes the 4 that you saw in the progression of programs, the First LEGO League Junior, First LEGO League, and First Tech Challenge. The First Robotics competition, that program for high schoolers, we actually administer the program throughout Oregon and including Alaska teams. So we do have a very big reach of FIRST out here in the Pacific Northwest. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and we have a very small staff that supports thousands of volunteers. This program takes over 3,500 coaches and mentors for the teams and about 2,000 event volunteers to put on what these teams take care of. So we are a nonprofit corporation, so if you run across donors and foundations and things who are looking for a worthy cause, we are it. So you can promote us that way. Let's see, make sure we're doing well. The First LEGO League, we're going to target this program. That's obviously what you are registering a team for, recognizing that there is a younger program. So if some of the students that want to be on your team are not quite appropriate for this program, there is a younger program that you can direct them to. And then of course there are older programs as well. Teams of 10 kids, up to 10 kids, they're going to work with the LEGO Mindstorms based kit and build robots. They're going to do some research, and they're going to do things with real-world scientific challenges. Often in the big literature from FIRST, you'll see that First LEGO League, it says from 9 to 16, age 16. That's for the international program, which does their grades differently. So it's very inclusive depending on what is necessary for the students across the world. In our country, the age is 9 to 14, so hopefully that doesn't get confusing for anybody about which program we're running. Now, the First LEGO League solutions, the students are looking for solutions to the challenges. There are lots of huge, big challenges out there. We need the next couple of generations to solve some really big problems. So the First LEGO League gets started with that. The students define some of these challenges and think up creative ways to solve them. They do that with the robots, where they build a robot to conquer some challenges, but they also do it with some of their project-based research and what they learn along the way. They don't realize it, but they absolutely work with some real-world math and science concepts. They have to know how to do certain things, and they'll figure it out. It's pretty amazing. Some of these soft skills, the career and life skills of working with a team, accomplishing things on a deadline, these are major skills that we don't realize the impact of not having them until you don't have them. The first LEGO League program worldwide, I just thought I'd throw these numbers out. This is from a slide deck that FIRST puts together to show where the program is and where it's going. The team growth since this program came about in '98, it's been remarkable. You look at it, just big slopes growing. It's over 29,000 teams. Those of you that register a new team number, you'll see your team number is in 5 digits now. Over 200,000 students in this program alone. Typically, there's about 8 students per team. Some of the school-based teams are always at 10. Some of the home-based and friends and family type teams, they may be at only 2 to 4 students. Anything is okay. It depends on what works. Lots of qualifying tournaments, championship tournaments around the world to go with First LEGO League. For Washington, I thought I'd throw this slide up while you're looking at the remarkable growth, because we have had a very similar looking graph. This graph shows all 4 of the programs in Washington State back from 2006. We do have, we had teams obviously before that for a few years. We didn't just start off this large, but last year we were up to about 1,000 teams across the 4 programs, and you can see kind of the magnitude of which programs have large numbers of teams, and you'll see that the red one is First LEGO League. That's its signature color in the first progression of programs. So anytime we see the red bars, we know we're talking about First LEGO League, and it's got nearly 600 teams in Washington. So it is a huge, huge program there. So let me just check in on the questions. Yep, we are doing okay there. Whoops. Except that I turned your screen off. There we go. Okay, so we'll kind of leave what is First Washington, what is the magnitude of this program, and go into the First LEGO League in detail. And this is going to start with what's called the core values. We're going to go over a coach promise and then some timelines. The timelines is where a lot of people want to catch up here and know what's going on in our state and when is it happening. The core values, this comes right out of the coach manual. This is what this program is based on. I've highlighted in red a couple of them that I like to bring out in this presentation. You can read all of them, obviously, but the first main one is that we are a team. There is no one person, whether it be a coach or a strong student in a team, that runs that whole thing. They need to get used to working together, taking the strengths of everybody, and this program is fabulous at working on that. Another one we want to highlight, though, in these days of do we reward everybody for any kind of effort, this program does honor the spirit of friendly competition. We don't want to win by beating down another team. We all want to win, but there is a competition going on, so we do look for innovative solutions and excellent robots and things that can do as well as they can do. Another big piece of the First LEGO League program are the sharing experiences with others. If we come up with a great invention, a fabulous solution, it doesn't do anybody any good if we don't share it and see if we can make it bigger, make it take off. So a big piece of how this team, how your team is evaluated will be a part of how they shared what they did. And then we have fun. If the kids aren't having fun, if the coach is not having fun, maybe we need to chat a little bit about that or get some help from some other coaches, because it is supposed to be a fun program, and it really is a fun program. I've been working with this program for over 15 years now. Back in 2001, I was an FLL coach, so I was in your shoes my very first year, and I coached for 5 years as my kids grew up and went to various educational opportunities. So First Lego League was a big part of our lives, but we had fun while we did it. Gracious professionalism. I wonder how many of you have heard this term yet. Woody Flowers, he's one of the co-founders of FIRST and an MIT professor. He coined this phrase, and it has to do with how we behave towards others. The respect, we're competing against a problem. The students will be trying to solve either a global real world problem or their robot challenge, but they need to respect the people. There will be honest differences of opinion, and quite frankly, in this country, we are starting to have trouble with people with varying opinions being able to listen to others and respond. We want to work on the idea of mutual gain, and that's where we can build on the ideas of others instead of pushing them down. This fosters the teamwork, it moves on to better solutions. There's a whole host of things as we work with gracious professionalism. Now, the Coaches Promise, this used to be in the coach manual, but I noticed that I could not find it this year. So thankfully, I still have my slide from last year. These are the things that whether you do them overtly or just behind the scenes, take these to heart, because this is what the coach needs to understand and behave. The children come first, and the children do the work. This is an excellent program. It really is an excellent program and brings some older generations that may not have had the chance to work with robots. They get very excited and say, wow, why didn't we have this when I was young? So the kids now do have it, but it is not the place on this team for the older mentors to come in and play with the robots and solve a challenge against some other fourth graders. The children need to do the work, and the children are what we're trying to reach with this STEM opportunity. As a coach, you are going to promise that your team has 10 or less students, and that each of these students is only participating on one team. I harp on this a little bit, and you will be surprised, you may not be surprised, but we have many teams where the coach or the organizer of the team takes a whole bunch of students in. If the cap is 10, maybe they brought in 16 or 18 students. And so we know what happens with a lot of clubs. A lot of kids don't stick with it. They get a different interest. So coaches wonder how much extra are we comfortable adding to the team in the beginning, knowing that some students will drop out. And hopefully by the time the competition comes, you're down to 10. And I'm here to tell you that it just does not happen that often. This is an extremely engaging program. So if you allow on 13 or 14 students, it is still highly likely that when the competition time comes, you will still have 11 or 12 students. And that has some consequences to have more than 10 students. Teams that come to the competition with more than 10 are ineligible for the awards. We want to make sure everybody understands that if you have such demand for this program, then you really need to think about starting a second team. It is better to have 2 teams of 6 to 8 students rather than 1 team of 12 to 14 and then having to cut some kids out of the team right when that time comes. I can certainly discuss this with anybody it happens to, but I brought it up on my slide this year because it actually happens every year that we hear of disappointed kids that when they had to pare down to 10. You as a coach are going to keep your email address up to date. So if you change jobs or drop one email and pick up another one, make sure that you are keeping that updated on the FIRST website on your dashboard. That your main place to log in with the FIRST global headquarters group is at firstinspires.org. And so you will keep your information up to date there because that's the only way that we know how to communicate with you. You will want to share updates to the challenge throughout the season. The challenge just kicked off in August. On August 30th, they released it. They have already made some updates to the game, whether the rules were unclear or something didn't work quite right. So it is extremely frustrating for a team to build their project or their robot around a concept that came out in August, and they don't know that throughout the season some things had changed and updated and they weren't aware of these changes. It is very frustrating. It will come back to haunt them a little bit. You as a coach are going to help the team develop those core values, those working as a team concept. So those are the things that you're going to promise to do. There's no place for you to overtly do it, but by taking on this role, this is where you're planning to be. Now, the FLL, First LEGO League timeline, nationwide, worldwide, and also in Washington State, we're going to call it a time circle part of the time, because just when you get around and think you're finished, another season is going to start. We start our circle at the top in May. Many of you may have just come to this program in August or September timeframe as your schools started up, but each year registration for this program actually begins in May. For an experienced coach, this is an advantage. They can open up the registration, reconnect to the team for the upcoming season, go ahead and get the background screening out of the way. Each year a coach will need to accept those terms and conditions and the background screening promises. Getting all that done in May is really nice to get that out of the way. Then whenever your money is ready, some teams actually have some money left over at the end of the school year, you can go ahead and purchase some of your materials or registration in the May-June timeframe. It's certainly not a requirement to pay any money at that point. So you can see it goes around the circle. May starts, August the challenge is released, but you have through September to finish the registration. Many of you may be feeling overwhelmed at this moment. We've only been in school for about a week or so, most of us, and to get a whole new school year started and crank out new information for this team is probably a little overwhelming. So you'll find it is nicer when May comes around again for you to kind of kick off and get a few of the administrative tasks out of the way. Once your team is registered and you have your kit of parts to both build a robot and compete with the obstacles, you spend October and November working on the project and the robot. Many teams, many teams and coaches feel like they don't have enough time. This program is designed to be about an 8 to 10 week program. You will notice that in the timing of our events, in the timing of the registration, and when it falls in the school calendar. Absolutely you do not have enough time, and that is by design. You do not have enough time, not enough resources, just not enough of anything, and the reality is you and the students have to do the best you can in the 8 to 10 weeks. That is a big part of the learning process. End of November comes, we get into December. In Washington, we will have all of our qualifier competitions will happen in December. The timing says December to January because as we've had explosive team growth, we have to go from a qualifier system onto some additional tournaments to get prepared for our state championship because we just have so many teams. So we actually have a multi-layer level of tournaments. Qualifiers are the first ones. They happen in December. January, we will have semifinal tournaments in Western Washington. And then at the end of January, we will have state championships. And we actually have 2 championships, one in Western Washington and one in Eastern Washington. Then there is a world championship and some national expos that go on in April. We don't have very many teams that go to that. Typically in the past, there has been 0 or 1 spot available. With the new structure, I don't know how many of you know that some of these world championships, they are growing. So we're going to have 2 of them this year. And so we will have between 1 and 2 spots to go with 600 or more teams. That is not a big goal that we want any of the coaches really focusing on. The chances are really small. Our state has an excellent structure, and so we want to have our teams focus on what can they do here to reach a level against themselves that they are getting better and learning. So we have our time circle. I've given you a different picture of it. Some folks like to think in a more linear format, so this is just a different way to look at the timeline, basically dealing from August to February. However, most of our teams will be finished between August and December is the bulk of when this program runs. Now, how many of you have seen this graphic? This is our first LEGO League trilogy. Your team is going to work this season in a challenge called Animal Allies. As a team, their mission is to explore that challenge theme. There will be lots of guidance with your coach's manual or the actual challenge documents to give you some ideas about directions, but it is the team that will choose how deep they will go and in what direction they will start to explore something. Going to do some problem solving. They're going to do that in a team environment, learning to work with others. It is a difficult concept. Many of us do not do that well. So this is a skill that is going to help them forever to be able to work on a team and actually solve a problem in a deadline time period. As part of this, they're solving the challenges and hopefully learning some things about STEM opportunities. As a coach, you are going to want to help them get exposed to these technical and professional career paths that may open up due to their research. Talking to local experts is one of the ways that we get the kids engaged. They see something that they are working on and it's relevant to a professional career, and oh, by the way, here's a person that is working in that field that you can talk to. It's a fabulous environment that really gets the kids engaged. So the challenge is out. It came out August the 30th. We call it Get Ready, Get Set, Roar. If you need to read about that, all of the links in these slides that I give you will be live and go to the right places. I mentioned that the program is about 8 to 12 weeks. You're not just going to build a robot with the kids. There's 3 parts in our triangle. There'll be the research project part where they have to actually define the problem, work on a solution, and give a presentation. The robot design is its own piece. It has both construction and programming as part of it. And then doing all that together is what's going to focus on those core values where they do team building, organization, all of that working to build themselves up. There's your promise again. Your team's going to have between 2 and 10 kids. The age ranges are restricted in the United States to ages 9 to 14 years old. There is a particular cutoff date, which will be in both your documentation somewhere later in this presentation, but January 1st of the year that the challenge is released, the kids have to be 14. So they can be 14 on January 1st, turn 15 throughout the year. So by the time we get to September here, you may have a 15-year-old student on the team, but that promises that they were 14 on January 1st or earlier. So we will have some crossover ages there, and that's built into the program as well. Just a little stat there that about 77% of the Washington teams are affiliated with a school, whether a public school or a private school. So by far the most common place to find teams is going to be in the schools. So if you are a teacher or a parent and the team is affiliated with a school, you're in good company here. That's what a lot of schools are trying to do. If you're in that minority, the other 20 23-25% of the teams, you're probably affiliated with a youth organization like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, the 4-H clubs, Boys and Girls Clubs, and also we have a catch-all group called Friends and Family. If you don't happen to be near an organization that is running this, that your child can just sign up, you were probably told if you want your kid on a team, you may have to start a team. So that's what many of our families and neighborhoods do. So they come from all walks of life, all communities. And what are they going to do? We've said this in a couple different ways now, working as a team. They're also going to take some risks and probably fail. That is another design of this program. Many of our students they do not know how to fail successfully, which is to say to fail and get up and try again until they hopefully find a solution. It's very risky for students to be creative or to try something that's kind of off the wall. You are providing a safe environment for them to do that by working together as a team with those core values where we build each other up. They are working in uniform to try to solve a challenge together. It also has to be safe for them to try some off-the-wall ideas that possibly as an adult you can look at it, you might want to roll your eyes and say, hey, that is never going to work. They don't know that, and they need to find out, how do I try something that won't work and turn around to try something that will work. I don't want you as a coach to be frustrated if your students are trying and failing and trying and failing and you just feel like they're never going to get to a good answer. You can help them as a coach for how to explore other options, get some ideas from other coaches or within your own skills to guide them to try again. Dealing with that failure and rising above it is going to be huge for these students. So another role of yours, like I said, is providing that safe environment where they can do that and they can grow and learn. Team dynamics a bit here. Teams can be 9 to 14, depending on how your team is structured. It may be with a single grade within an elementary or middle school, so the students are very closely age clustered together. If you have a whole team of children under the age 11, in that 9 to 11, working with them is going to have one set of challenges. You'll see a couple of items there. They like to start over from the beginning sometimes if it doesn't work. They do much better with your hands-on being shown something versus verbally. They may require a lot more time and repetition to get to the same point that children over 11 may get to a little faster because they're more willing to do the iterative process where they say, well, that didn't work. I'm not going to tear it apart and start over. Maybe I'll just change this wheel, or maybe I'll change my program. So they can also sometimes be told things or taught things on a conceptual basis. You might not have to show them as clear an example. So the under 11, over 11 is kind of a developmental milestone in general. So if your team is in one of those areas and they're all there together, you have a particular style, you may work with that team. However, if you have a mixed age group, you may have to have a little bit of patience, may get to teach the older students how to work as mentors to the younger students. How are they going to work together to solve them? Because as you can see, where they're developmentally quite different, it may be extraordinarily frustrating for the older students to watch the younger students kind of tear apart and start over, even though that's their style of being successful. So take a look at that dynamic from a developmental standpoint. It doesn't mean this program is not appropriate for a student if they're struggling with it. It just means they have a different way of solving their problems. As a coach, you want to take advantage also of any team leaders that you have in there. Let them control what some of this does and lead various groups. It'll be a learning experience for them in that regard as well. Some of your kids may be experts at Lego. They come to this program and they say, my kid loves to build with Lego. the students may come in and feel like they are absolutely experts and they're not willing to listen to their other teammates. Some kids may like to draw. Some are the presenters, the talkers. You'll want to focus on their natural tendency and let that help the team develop. Whether, some obvious examples here where the talkers are maybe doing the presenting, the builders may lead the robot design, artisans, they may come up with your marketing, your branding, the logos, the look of things. However, the bottom bullet point, you want to nudge them out of their comfort zone if you can. This is that safe area to fail, but this is also the safe area to try something that they may not be very good at. Many kids, they know what they're good at. They will gravitate towards that and enjoy excelling in that area. However, there's a wide open world out there that they may not know if they are going to be good at something or that they are going to enjoy it. So here is your prime opportunity in this small, comfortable, team building type environment for them to try something never before. I did have one of my first students on my very first team. She said absolutely she didn't know anything about programming. She just wanted to work on the t-shirts and maybe help with the snacks. And I'm looking at her like, you are crazy, kiddo, because everybody on the team is going to at least try something, because we don't have a big enough team to get everything done by just dividing up into that small an idea. So each team member was required to try to build something for the robot attachments. They were to try a program to make the robot move and do one of the challenges. And lo and behold, as you can probably guess, she loved programming. She is not a programmer now, however, she is a nurse anesthesiologist. All my kids are graduating and starting to get married, but they are in a STEM career that, whether that was on her radar as a 9 or 10-year-old, I don't know, but she absolutely stayed focused and told me later that the programming was the most fun part she ever had on the team. But at the beginning of the team, she said, no, I can't do any of that. Well, of course they can't. So it's not a bad thing for them to feel uncomfortable. You're going to help guide them along. As a coach, what are you going to do? You're going to lead the team, but don't do the work. Provide some structure and direction. You've got deadlines and registration deadlines, signing up for tournaments, keeping the deadline looming, what's some project management skills. Most of our coaches are not technical experts. So for you to feel like, oh, I'm going to really struggle to do this because I don't know how to be a veterinarian, I don't know how to program a robot, that's okay. There's resources for you to learn along with the students. You just got to help them find some of those. Your most important attributes are going to be patience, dedication to getting through this project, and a willingness to learn along with the team. You're going to learn as much as they will. It may be very different things, but you will. Some of the basics for you are to not take this FLL too seriously. This is supposed to be fun for everyone. You're going to have fun with robots. They're going to learn about the theme. This year's theme, Animal Allies, everybody's excited about it. We haven't found people that don't like learning something about animals. While they're learning about the animals, they're going to be exposed to this technology and science and possibilities. You're not going to solve the problem for the kids. Even if you feel like you see a solution, you're going to step back. They're going to want that absolute joy of discovery when they do solve the problem. If you give it to them too easily, you've taken away that joy of discovery that we want to be out there for them. I mentioned it with the World Festival tickets or the championship entries that we have for our teams. You want to avoid overemphasizing the winning at the robot game or the winning of a particular award. You've got this entire 8 to 12 week journey that you're going to go on with this team and with these students. The qualifier tournament that they're going to go to is going to be a huge celebration, a culmination, a place to show what they've done with other like-minded students from around the state. But whether they win an award or not at that qualifier tournament does not mean they didn't have an excellent journey for 8 to 12 weeks. So try hard to, they want to do well, they want to compete, they absolutely would love to win an award. But you also have another 12 weeks of working with them. So make sure we're focusing on the right things. Couple of nuts and bolts here. Your time commitment, it's going to be at least twice a week for about 2 hours if you want to progress at this 8 to 10 week pace. You may have to adjust that as you see fit. If your team has more time and is motivated to spend more time, that is great. Time versus progress, you're going to be more frustrated than the kids. Most of the progress is going to be made in the final couple of weeks. If you can go ahead and plan on that, whether it's clearing the calendar or getting the workspace for the students available more frequently in the last few weeks, you can expect that things will click in those last couple of weeks, but they will suddenly recognize they don't have enough time to achieve what they can see out there as possible. So if you can give them some more time as it gets closer, it will be beneficial for all. Get them out there. Now, it's going to take a lot of work in your robot workspace, but you have other challenges with the project and the research and the engaging with people in these professional careers. So make sure you're getting out there and relating this, because the connection that they have between we did this in our lab or in our classroom, and now I'm seeing a person doing it for real out in the field. That connection is priceless. And remember, the kids come first, so you're guiding and directing. Let them solve it and have the discovery. Lego gets everywhere. I don't know how many of you have stepped on some Lego. Ouch. If you can get any bits of little storage containers, whatever works for where you have to store it, learning a little bit of organization and keeping these things parceled out in some manner that is useful to them, it makes some of the sessions go much easier if they can have a little bit of an organized workspace. And it's also incumbent upon those students to organize their workspace at the end of the day. That is part of the using the tools and using them wisely, is putting them away. So make that a little bit easy for them. You are going to need a playing field, the 4-foot by 8-foot playing field. If having that in a plywood format is not feasible for you, there are some other options. This Stow and Go is one of them. The Inventioneers, there are some portable options that are of course not sturdy enough for us to use as a competition field, but they are certainly sturdy enough to use as a practice field. What else do you need? You're going to have a computer with an internet connection, a place to work on and build the robot, a place to put down the full 4 by 8-foot playing field, whether that's on top of a table, on top of some desks and things. The playing field does need legs. It does not need legs the very first week, but certainly before these students come to a competition, they need to have run their robot on a playing field that is up on legs, whether it's sawhorses or a table. It is very disconcerting for a student to spend 12 weeks crawling on their knees on the floor to run their robot, and then when they get to the competition and find out it's up on a table and they can't reach it and they can't crawl on the table to reach their robot, they are very disoriented because it's not kind of the same muscle memory where they've played with their robot. So get it up off the floor kind of as soon as you can so that they are in a more familiar environment when they're running it. A couple of gotchas. I do go over these school things here because most of our teams, the majority of our teams, do come in schools. There are some things to be aware of. Many of the schools, if you're bringing in a mentor or an assistant coach, they require a background check that is different than the one that first required of you. Some of the more local ones can take multiple weeks. So if your school is in that, you want to get things moving as soon as possible. Sometimes also purchasing systems take a while to process payments. You don't get to buy your equipment without paying for the team. You also don't get to attend a qualifier tournament without paying for the participation. Those are going to have some deadlines, so make sure that you're getting your payment options underway prior to just expecting to be able to go up to an administrator if they don't have a credit card for you to borrow. The IT departments in schools, not often will they let you just load any software onto a computer. You may either need permission, a dedicated computer, or whatever, but it's another thing that often can't happen the same day, so you need to plan for that. Being nice to the janitor, I mentioned you're going to want to be in the building working with your robot, possibly on some off hours or some weekend time or evening time. If the janitor's got the keys, they're going to be the ones that might be able to bend the rules, let you stay a little bit later, or get you in on a weekend, that kind of stuff. Planning for that after hours and weekend access. Need to start prepping your administrators early that that's going to happen. How are we going to make it happen? And also the transportation. Some of the teams that are made up of family and friends where parents just drive the kids everywhere, they're unused to the fact that if the students are participating in a school team, they may have to use school transportation in order to get to a school sanctioned function, which will be our qualifier. So the students may not be allowed to travel in private cars, and you want to know that well in advance so that you can get all of your students to the event. It is extremely frustrating for a student to have participated on the team, but then all of a sudden they are not part of the transportation to the event. So make sure that's clear in your school's area how that's going to happen. What about the mentors? You're the coach, that's great, but a mentor is known as any person who works with the team who is not a team member. Inviting guest speakers to come speak to your team, that's a mentor. Somebody who can just come have a talk for 1 hour is a mentor for your team. Asking your guest mentors to come to one team, especially in the beginning, is awesome because often they think it's so cool they will stay and help you later on, and it's always great to have extra people around. A great place to look for mentors is to look and find a FIRST Robotics competition team. That's our high school teams. They are often anxious to come and share what they know with some of the younger students and help your teams be successful. Part of it is their mission to help the First LEGO League program grow, but part of it is also self-serving. The high school teams will not be successful if they don't have engaged and active students coming up in the ranks year after year. So they want your younger students to be well into the program so that they can be successful when they get older. A few more examples of where you can find mentors. Many people think they are looking for a programmer from Microsoft to come tell them how to program the robot, and that is just not necessarily what everyone is looking for. Engineers can help with some design. Programmers obviously can teach the programming and some basic troubleshooting skills, but look at some of these other areas. If we're doing a project related to a field of science, we might need to talk to some scientists or get someone to help us there. A business or community leader, how do we run a team-based sometimes we call these robotics teams small businesses. We have project management. How do we market ourselves? How do we build a good presentation? Those business and community leaders have some of those skills that can take that to the next level. I mentioned the FIRST Robotics competition teams. A general volunteer. Do you need help with logistics, getting all the paperwork filled out at the school, things that require adult supervision that people in your community have the skills to do? Take some of that off of your plate if you can by recruiting, whether these are parents or just a member of the community who's interested in helping out the school. Graphic artists are another one. We are all about. We don't call it STEAM yet, but many of our foundations and funders do talk about STEAM instead of STEM, and they add the A in there for the arts. There's a lot of brain work that says the kids that are interested in the robots and the math and the science, they have a lot of connectedness with the very artistic students as well. So broaden your minds when you think about who are you maybe looking for or recruiting to help your team be successful, and it can be from all walks of life. We'll go loop back to a little bit of nuts and bolts again. Just going to do a quick time check here, see where we are, make sure we've got the questions covered. Yep, looks like we're doing okay there. So we are on a roll. Yep. Let me get back on base. If you've seen a Lego Mindstorms kit, you know that they came out close to 2000, the late 1990s, 2000. If you got a Mindstorms kit back in the day, they had an RCX controller, the yellow one on the left. Mid-2000s, Mindstorms had a controller called NXT, and then in the last 4 to 5 years, 4 years, the EV3 has come out. All of these are legal, all right? If your school put in a lot of money and purchased NXT robotics kits, those kits are always going to be legal in the First LEGO League competition. You do not have to go out and upgrade. The students can learn how to solve the challenges with the resources that they have. It is not always imperative that you go out and purchase the newest or the latest and the greatest sensor. There will be challenges that the students can do with their robot with all of these controllers. If you look on YouTube, there have been some amazing contraptions built with all of these controllers. So they are all capable of doing parts of the challenge. The newer one, the EV3, will have some more modern sensors and techniques. So if you are a brand new team and is looking at something, you are better served to spend the money and get the upgraded EV3 versus looking for an older version. So just ways to work with it. If you see these things and you're looking to purchase something, this is what the kit looks like for the NXT. Buying something retail, when we work with LEGO Robotics, we are not working with just the core set of the kit that came with the controller. They also add to it an expansion kit, and it makes a complete package. That's why the kits that you purchase from LEGO Education is going to be close to $500 because you're getting both the core kit and the expansion kit, which kind of gives you a round package of sensors and components, and then you've got the software programming license on top of that. So that's the NXT kit. This is the more modern version, the EV3, the core set and the expansion set, plus the software. Like I said, EV3 is the newer platform. The NXT, though, it is mature and very well understood what its quirks and things are, so there's lots of training things on YouTube. The EV3 is, it's been out long enough now that you will find many, many options on YouTube or training modules online to work with both of them. Like I said, a new team should go ahead and invest in the EV3. Your startup budget, if you're starting a new team, I've mentioned a couple of costs along the way, and you want to be well aware of what those costs are. It will cost close to $1,400 for a brand new team to get started, and those costs are broken out as follows. With the team registration at First Global will be $225. You'll then need to purchase a challenge kit. That's the Lego mat and the Lego models that the robot interacts with. That's $75. It's heavily subsidized by Lego. A robotic kit for a new team who doesn't have any supplies, they will need the robotic kit. Lego has increased their discount substantially this year, so that kit has been reduced to $439. You'll have about $25 of shipping added to that. So what you're going to pay on the first website in probably 2 transactions will total about $764. Those are best paid with a credit card. So if your school has a daily or a monthly limit, you may want to talk to the administrators about how you're going to get that covered and paid for and reimbursed. Additional costs to start up a new team, you're going to need a table. That's going to take a 4x8 sheet of plywood and some 2x4s. A little bit of black paint too, so you're spending about $85. The tournament registration fee to participate in Washington is going to be $325, and then you'll want to add in about $200 for miscellaneous things that just always happen with teams, whether it's getting some t-shirts for your team, putting together some presentation props and things. That is not putting in there a cost for a computer. The computers are becoming so common in the schools and in the families that it's not considered something that almost everybody wouldn't have. If you are, however, starting up a new team and you are at a school that may struggle to have enough computers, please contact me separately because we do have some donors who would like to offer you some equipment to get some of our underserved teams to make sure they have the same materials and options that the other teams would have. So total gets down to just under $1,400. If you have about 10 kids per team, that's about $138 per student to participate in this program, which is actually on a per student basis cheaper than your music and your band and your cheerleading and your football. So it's if you take a look at it on a per team basis, it is very, very justifiable, especially if you consider the outcomes that we are going to get at the end of this program. If anyone needs help justifying the team budget with the school administrators or with whatever your funders are, you can contact me, or I can get you connected with our president, Erin McCallum, who does a lot of workshops and helpful resources for how to get folks to understand what your needs are and what your outcomes are going to be, and it's going to be well worth it. Once you have a team and you have played with this project for 8 to 12 weeks, it's now time to evaluate your team. How is that going to happen? You're going to come to a regional qualifier tournament, and your team's going to be evaluated on these 3 elements. We've seen them in the color-coded triangle: your project, the robot design and construction, and the core values, how your team works together. These evaluations are highly subjective. They're done by a panel of volunteer judges. The judges do use rubrics, so they are given some guidance for how to score you and how to rank you. But in these 3 areas, the judging sessions are extremely subjective. That's to say that if your team was to go in front of a panel of 3 judges or 3 panels of judges on a particular Saturday, that is just one snapshot in time. Your team may score differently if they were to see a different panel of judges on a different day when the sun was shining instead of raining and the barometric pressure was going haywire. So don't let your students, if they are disappointed with a particular evaluation, take that too much to be upset for, because this was one snapshot of their team. All right. Like I said, though, the judges do use rubrics. They're not just willy-nilly going to look at your team and say, hey, I see they have a costume, so I'm done evaluating them. No, they're going to use some rubrics, and they're going to ask some questions, and they're going to expect some things out of the teams. I'm constantly surprised at teams that do come to the competition and are not prepared to show how they have accomplished some of the rubric items. You have your own checklist there by looking at these rubrics to kind of let the students self-judge how they are doing and what they consider good enough, knowing that what they may choose to be good enough may not be seen by the judges as being good enough, but they're looking at the same rubric. All right? Now, how are the awards going to come out? If you're at a qualifier event, there's going to be a slate of 12 awards. The very top level award is called the Regional Champions Award. There is one award for the robot performance. The performance is playing the robot game. That is separate from judging the robot and how it is designed and programmed. You'll see each of our three core areas, project, robot, and core values, have a further refinement so that judges can select a team based on something really well in a very focused area. And you'll see this on the rubric. It is broken out in the same types of areas. We also have at the bottom our judges always. It is an optional award at any event, but they almost always take advantage of the fact that they see something in a team that just doesn't fit into the rubrics and they want to give an award. So they will name their own award. They will tell the audience why they chose that award, and then they will award that to a particular team that they found was special for some reason. Couple of details here about your project presentation. This most of it comes right out of the coach manual. Your team is going to identify a problem when people and animals interact. That is very vague and open-ended. So they've got to come up with a problem, create an innovative solution, share that problem, and then present some kind of summary of that to the judges in their judging session. Presentation formats up to your team. They need to use humor, skits, songs, engaging elements, posters, movement, not movement, puppets. We have seen lots of stuff. Watch different presentation examples online and practice, 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 practice. That is one of those cases where when they are spending more time and very engaged at the end, hopefully they are practicing and refining what they're doing. The robot design, the team is going to have to maximize what they can do on that challenge board in 2.5 minutes. They have 3 tries to run the game for only 2.5 minutes. The challenge is, of course, designed that they cannot achieve every single thing on the table in 2.5 minutes. They are going to have to choose some strategies, knowing points are awarded for different things. Something that's much easier to do may not earn as many points as something that is much more difficult and takes longer to do. They will have to decide what they think they can do in 2.5 minutes and do the best they can. Read the rules. There are some rules, what they can and cannot do, and the referees that will be scoring the games, they will know those rules. And it is another frustrating piece for teams to build their robot with an assumption of what they can do, and it violates the rules. And then when they come to the table and are not given credit, they are very disappointed. And so this is one of those coach requirements that you're going to help them know and understand the rules if they need to talk it out a little more. Lots of tutorials online. Everybody's concerned they don't know how to program. That's okay. There's lots of ways to learn it. If you can't get a mentor to come help you or you don't know yourself, many, many, many options out there. Core values judging. This is judged in multiple ways. One is with a defined judging session with the team meeting with the judges. There'll be an activity that is a secret activity up until the event, and the students will go into the judged room and they will perform this activity, and the judges will watch them and observe them and find out how are they interacting together, and they will be looking for the team focus. Whether they complete the challenge or not is totally irrelevant. The judges are looking for how this team works together to make decisions. In addition, however, there are roving judges and roving volunteers who are observing and interacting with the team throughout the day. So we want the students to understand that it's a on and off the field that gracious professional and teamwork behavior needs to take place. It is very frustrating to see a lovely team in the judging room for 10 minutes go out and have some very unprofessional and inappropriate behavior when they're upset or distressed. It's not to say that your students are not going to be probably fairly stressed out. There's going to be meltdowns here and there. A stressed out child with a meltdown is not going to disqualify your team for the most part, unless it's a really horrendous meltdown. So you want to be careful probably about letting some team members come down hard on a student who's having trouble handling the stress. The judges are not looking for nitpicky things like that, but they are looking for signs that this team works together and is behaving in a generally gracious, professional manner all the time as much as they can. Let's see, let me just double check here because we're getting a couple of questions. Yeah, we will address some of these. Oh, yep, somebody's looking for examples of, say, what is something like a core values activity. One year they were, they've had some of the typical team building activities. Maybe you're given some resources and have to build a tower, or you're given a set of parts that may build something vague with almost no instructions for how to build it, or a rope one year with knots in it. Kids had to get the knots undone without letting go of the rope. That was quite a physical and interesting challenge. A lot of times the challenges are not likely to be solved in 5 to 10 minutes, but they are just a mechanism for working together. A lot of team building activities where the students respect each other's opinion, listen to each other, are open to ideas that may seem off the wall. You're going to foster that so that when they are put into their unknown position and asked to do a challenge, they're not going to revert back to some kind of horrendous behavior that has, you know, one child being the bully, unless that's the way they always solve their problems. Typically at the events in Washington, the coaches are not allowed to come into the core values room. The coach is discouraged from coming in the other judged sessions, but they are generally allowed to have one coach in there. Coaches don't believe it, but the students do enormously better when the coach is not in the room. They know that they're in charge of presenting what they know. They do the best that they can, and they are usually extraordinarily good at it. When a coach comes in the room, I'll be frank with you, they are just not quite as on top of it. They know they're being watched by their coach. They know they may be evaluated by the coach after the fact. It just makes them behave different. So think long and hard about whether you go into the judging sessions, but know that for the core values, you will typically be excluded. And they can tell you about it when they come out, and it's usually a fun activity. They come away being glad they had fun doing it. These judge sessions are not a stern session where they're trying to prove something. It's usually like a game, and the judges are interacting with them in that way. Tournament day. Oh, we're up to get to the tournament. Our dates are out here. The regional qualifiers are going to be the 3rd, 4th, 10th, and 11th. It's a Saturday or a Sunday, typically 8 to 5. A team will attend one qualifier event, and only one. We have 600 teams. We have to have over 20 events just to get everybody through one qualifier. The qualifier schedule has not been publicized as to which event is on which day, and that is purely the fault of our school system, who we cannot confirm our venues. We try to confirm them in the spring, and we do get a couple confirmed, but most of the schools put us off until mid to late September. They want to get their schools started and get their sports schedules and things on the calendar before they will commit to our events. So we're not withholding the locations and events. We just don't publicize them until we know it's there. It's been some disappointment when we publish the schedule early and then the school changes and the team or family is totally messed up because they had planned on day 1 and the event had to move to day 2, and oh, we can't help it. So until we're confirmed, we won't release the whole schedule. We do know the dates that we are requesting, and so that you can go ahead and lock in. If you make it through qualifiers, there's an advancement policy. Semifinals are going to be January 21st and 22nd of the 2017 year, and then state championships, there will be 2 of them I mentioned before, the one in Eastern Washington. This year we're going to hold it in Spokane, and that will be in mid to late January, and then the Western Washington event will be in Kent at the ShowWare Center, and that one we do know is February the 4th, 2017. Free and open to the public. The activities on tournament day, the teams will work in their pits and practice with their robot. In the morning, they'll have their judging sessions, project, robot, and core values judging. There's a 10-minute session for each one of those that the students will have a schedule they will follow. And then in the afternoon, we'll do the robot contest. So they will have a pretty full day, and at the end, we'll have an award ceremony and cleanup. I mentioned the event schedule is finalized by early October, so teams are going to select and register for a tournament. You'll be allowed to choose which tournaments you would like to go to. This year we will be using the FIRST event management system, so it is still having some tweaks worked out, but you will be able to basically apply for an event, and you will be able to apply for multiple events if several days or locations would work for you, and prioritize those. It is our hope, of course, that everybody gets their first choice, but the more flexible you are or the more willing you are to see some other areas and days will get you into a tournament that will work with your schedule. Mention 1 per team. The registration and payment system for the First Washington fee will be open in mid-October. It will be after the registration for First has closed. So the first registration with the global, the team registration, that's open from May through September. When that closes, we will know how many teams we have in our area. We'll be able to finalize how many events we need to have to accommodate all of those teams. And then the coaches or the purchasers, if you have an administrator assigned to your team, will be emailed an invoice. You'll need to pay that invoice in order to be accepted into a tournament. Tournaments will get full, so I encourage you to pay the invoice when it comes so that your registration for the tournaments you want will have a nice early date on them, and that won't conflict. This is just another, a more linear version of your tournament day. A typical sign-in is about 8:30. Between 8 and 8:30, you'll set up your pits from 8:30 to 9. That's just getting everybody into the gym and into your tournament area. The judging sessions are typically 9 to noon. We'll take a short lunch break. Then we'll start the robot game about 12:30 to 4 p.m. If you have grandparents and siblings and interested coworkers and things who would like to see a typical tournament, it's best to tell them to come in the afternoon. We'll have an opening ceremony officially about 12:30 at most of our events, and then the robot game kicks off. It's not as interesting for the spectators to come in the morning because the teams are really doing their own thing, going off to their judging sessions and coming back and prepping for another judging session. So there's nothing much for spectators going on in the morning. So it's helpful for families if you can divide up when people come so that the team gets there early without a lot of their supporters, and then the additional supporters, siblings, grandparents, and whatnot can come in the afternoon and really enjoy the day with them. What do you bring to a tournament? There's something called a team information sheet. You will find these on the web and in my emails throughout the season. You'll bring a team roster. This is something you will print off online. There is a registration process for each of the students on your team. It's on the FIRST site. There's a way to invite students to your team. When they are invited, the parent will fill out some information about their student, and then they will apply back to your team and you will accept them onto your team. All of these accepted students that are registered in the system will automatically print onto the team roster, and part of that registration means the parents will give their consent and release. If you are in a school system who has a lot of parents and participants who do not have email access, you can give me a call and we can talk through what some of your options are to help those parents get their students registered. It is really important to get the students registered online. Many resist this process because they say it's hard or inconvenient, but the students really need to be registered, and especially in some of our underserved populations who may be the hardest ones to get registered, those are the ones that are of most interest to our donors. Our donors and funders want to know that these students are in there and will in point give us additional monies to make sure that they do get in there. But until we can show that we are reaching some of these students, it's a difficult thing to prove. So if you are struggling to get your students registered, please contact me offline and we will walk through some of your options there. A couple of other items, most of these you would obviously bring, but it is amazing how many forget them. So build your own checklist for the tournament so that you and the team can make sure that you're prepared properly when you get there. Pit areas and practice tables at the tournament, each team gets a table or half of a table. Most of the time you will get a 6-foot table that will be all for your team. There will not be any chairs there. The spectators and parents and people who want to sit down are supposed to go into the gym where the robot game is going to go on. The pit area can be toured by parents and siblings and visitors, but it is not a place for everybody to hang out. As you will see from this picture, it can get quite crowded when we have 40 to 45 teams with 8 to 10 students per team and coaches and parents. It is just a big din of moving students. They'll do practice rounds and things in there and work in their pit areas, and then they'll go off to their 3 panels of judging. A schedule for where they need to be when will be given to each team upon check-in, and then you'll see a group of volunteers there. Often these are volunteer students. The high school students come help us run the event. Students and teams will stay at their pit location, and then our runners will pick them up at their pit location. That's how we know where you will be. They'll take them to their judging room and they'll return them and escort them back and forth. We do this for many reasons, but one of them, we're often in some very large high schools and the judging rooms may be in some obscure classrooms. We certainly do not want stressed out young First LEGO League students wandering the high school trying to find the right room to be at the right time. That's just a stress they do not need, and neither does the coach. So one of the ways we combat this is that you will wait at your pit table and get an escort to exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there, and we kind of manage that with you. The robot game, this one's in the afternoon. You get to try the robot game 3 times. The best single score determines the winner. The teams are retrieved by these same runners that helped with the judging sessions in the morning. They will bring the teams to line up so that we always have a queue of people in line ready to go, and the teams, they do their 2.5 minutes, score the game, move off, and the next one starts, and it's quite regimented actually. We stay on schedule as much as we can in the afternoon. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are not allowed, so please do not run hotspots and things in there. There's a lot of possibilities of connecting to the robots and running them remotely. The gracious professionalism also includes a level of trust. So part of that is that nobody will be running Bluetooth and Wi-Fi that may interfere with one person's robot or may enhance another person's robot. The project presentation for the judging is a live performance for the judges. They will somehow present their project. The practice is huge. They can't really just throw this together on a day or 2 before and do well at it. Want to send out a caution on doing a big complicated audio visual setup type program, and this even sometimes comes down to laptops and trying to show a video or a presentation that's very electronics related. When the students walk into the judging room, their timer starts when that door closes. So if they take 3 to 4 minutes to set up, they have just wasted 3 minutes of their 5-minute presentation time. They only have 5 minutes from the time they walk in the door to give their presentation. The remaining 5 minutes in the judging session is for the judges to interact with them and ask some questions, but they will be limited to a 5-minute presentation. So be very aware of what the setup time is. They often don't factor that in and are caught short when the timer goes off and the judges are ready for them to be done, and they may have another minute to 2 that they're expecting to be able to continue the presentation, and it won't work that way. Again, there's another link for the rubrics. Check them out. This is just an example of some kids who were giving a project presentation, and they had some props and costumes to go along with it. The robot design judging is another very fun one for the students. They're interviewed by a judging panel, and if we can get enough of the tables and mats, we will have each judging room will be supplied with a field setup kit. This is where your team may be able to help out if you can bring that to the event to use in the judging rooms. This is an interactive interview. There's no formal presentation at this time. Most of the time the students will bring their robot in and the judges will ask a question, something like, show me your favorite mission. And so they can run their robot on the table and describe to the judges what it does and how it does it. And they do not have to take them through the entire robot. That one doesn't have a 5-minute limit. That is just a 10-minute interactive session with the judges. The students generally find that one very engaging. The robot judges we get, they are always impressed with our teams and they love interacting with the students. So once they get in there and get over their nervousness that they are being judged, it is typically a very positive experience for them. Speaking of judges, First Washington needs almost 500 volunteer judges in the month of December to cover all of our qualifier events. We're asking teams to recruit at least one unaffiliated adult to volunteer as a judge. Now by unaffiliated, I mean an adult who is not part of your team, and part of your team will be the parents of all the students on your team. We have tried to be lenient with this, and we have had some poor experiences where we let a parent or a grandparent of a student come into the judge room expecting some gracious behavior, and it just wasn't there. So we have learned our lessons. There are some policies in place to accommodate affiliated volunteers, but if we can possibly avoid it, we want to have judges that are not necessarily, they don't have to be new to the program, but it is a great way to introduce somebody who's not familiar with this program to it, to come spend a day with us and volunteer as a judge. So think about that when you're interacting with the community. Maybe your visitor mentor that came and presented to your team for an hour or so, they would not have a huge affiliation with your team. They would disclose that to our judge advisor, but that would not prevent them from coming to judge at the event where your team was competing. It would be preferable if they would come to an event where your team was not competing. And oh, by the way, coaches, you may also volunteer at an event where your team is not competing. We have many coaches that do this, and it is an excellent way to find out the behind the scenes. How does the judging work? You are certainly allowed to come learn how it works. It's a semi-secret process at the event in that the teams are not made aware of a lot of the deliberations that go on in the back room and how the awards are decided. But as a coach, you may come and do that process on another day. So I expect to see some of you at these events. To register to volunteer for any of our events, the system is known as VIMS, Volunteer Information Management System. You'll see it referred to all over the place as VIMS. So you go back to the firstinspires.org site and put in /VIMS, and it will take you to the right place. This is just a graphic visual to help you understand how many volunteer judges we need for the first LEGO League program. And we need about 464 just in December for the FLL program. You remember the red bars are for the FLL program. You'll see if you want to judge in a different program, we need judges throughout the season from December through March and April. Green is for the junior FLL, the FLL junior program, First LEGO League Junior. We need some volunteer reviewers. That's a kind of a short-term opportunity, just a couple of hours. And then the orange is the First Tech Challenge program, one of the high school programs. And then the blue is the First Robotics Competition, and that's the one with the big robots, the multi-day tournaments. The robot missions, most of you will have seen this table at this point in time. That's what your mat will look like on the table with the mission models set up. This is an example of the scoring rubric that was used last year. There will be, this version is what, a version of something like this is what will be developed for the qualifier tournaments this year. The referees will use this to score what missions were completed or not completed. At the end of the game, this piece of paper, they will go over it with the students, and you'll see at the bottom, right above our logo there will be a place for one of the students to initial the score sheet. That's an indication that they understand what the referee went over with them, and they agree with the missions that he or she said they did and did not do. At that time, however, the referee or the student does not know the numeric score that is on this sheet. The sheet will just be circling items that were complete or not complete. This scoring sheet then goes to a scorekeeper, and we have an automated score system, so we are manually inputting this sheet, and then the score system will score it, and we'll keep a running tally up on a screen that will be displayed to the audience. So you'll know the rank after each of your rounds, but for the students to question the referee about what is their score, the referee will not know. They're not going to add up the numbers. We'll have the computer do that. We are not yet to the point with so many qualifiers and so many things running where we have anything like tablets. That is under development, but it is not here yet. So we are taking paper copies and inputting it into the computer. But your students will have a chance to go over that with the referee. The referee is not a scary person. Most of them will be wearing funny hats. They love to interact with students. So if your students have a question about why they did or did not get the mission, please encourage them to talk to the referee. If there is a discrepancy between what the students think they should have gotten and what the referee thinks they've gotten, each event will have a head referee who is in charge of that event and will make final decisions. It is not acceptable for the coach to decide what the students should or should not have gotten. The students may talk to the referees all they want, and there is a process and a place for them to indicate they want to talk to the referee. The coaches are not to interact with the referees. The students need to either see the mistake or raise the question. Sometimes we see coaches encourage students to do that. There's a line, of course, that you will cross if you are forcing the students to go after something they didn't see or understand. So see if we can understand the difference there. I'm about to run out of time here. I'm going to see if I can go a little faster and get to the resources. The Champions Award is the final award at the event, and it is for a team that embodies everything about the program. They do not have to win the Robot Performance Award. They do not have to have the best robot, but they do have to have a robot that performs in the top 40% of all the teams that are there. They do have to be very strong in all three areas, have given a really good project presentation, a really good robot design, and work really well together as a team with their core values. The judges are looking for that well-rounded team and we want to recognize those as our regional champions. So each of our qualifiers will have a Champions Award that will go on there. A Champions Award would automatically move forward to the next level. That would be like an automatic buy into the next level of tournaments. At the award ceremony, these are at the end of the day, only one of the judged awards will go per team. Our event sizes are typically 30 to 44 teams, and the judges are instructed to spread the wealth, so they will make some decisions. There will not be one team that will win multiple judged awards. The only circumstance where a team would go away with 2 awards is when they were given both a judged award and they also win the robot performance, which is scored purely on numbers. The highest score wins. That's just the way it is, so there's no decision making on that one. But that would be the only way that a team would get 2 of the awards. Otherwise, it will be 1 per team. Advancing to the next level, we mentioned there's 2 championship tournaments in Washington. One is east of the Cascade Mountains and one is in western Washington. To get to the East Championship, people would advance forward from some of our events that will be held in Spokane area, Tri-Cities area, Walla Walla. Not sure if we're going to have another one in Central Washington this year. But they will all feed into the Eastern Washington Championship, and between 20 and 25% of the teams at any one qualifier will advance forward to the next level. In Western Washington, the advancement from the qualifier is to a semifinal and then to the championship. So the judges are the ones that decide who advances. They need to be in the top 40% of the robot score, but again, they do not have to have the best robot. They give very strong weight to the core values, so the teamwork aspect of a team can eke out kind of a questionable or a decisive, a tiebreaker type of thing. The semifinal teams, you'll see it in your coach manual, they will create a core values poster and an engineering summary to present to the teams. And then, oh, looks like my slide has fallen off a little bit. About 25% of the semifinal teams are going to advance to the championship event, and it will be the same type of structure there. Okay, we are getting to the resources. I'm going to make sure we got the questions going on. Yes, the team rosters, those are on the First Inspire site when you log into your team. There will be a way to print those. And then any evaluations during the 12 weeks? That's an interesting question because one of the things we encourage teams to do, if you have the ability, is to hold something called a scrimmage. And a scrimmage could just be in your cafeteria or your classroom, and you say, hey, I'd like to invite a few teams that are in my area. You can either invite them because you know them, or I can help you reach out to some of the teams in your area. And getting together and having the kids interact and almost show their robots. There will be some teams who say, I don't want to show our very clever solution to this very intricate problem on the table, but you want them to get over that if they can. That seeing other robots and going up almost in a little mini competition of the scrimmage, it opens up that iterative process that we saw in some of the older students where they can see, hey, my robot can do this, but oh my goodness, the team next door, they can do 2 extra missions. Maybe we need to work a little harder, or maybe we need to think about this differently. Whatever it is, it spurs them on to do a little bit better. So sometimes we find it a little bit sad that they work so hard and it all comes down to one tournament. So we cannot offer more qualifiers because we don't have the manpower in our state, but we can offload the opportunity to interact with other teams to a more localized environment so that you guys can have scrimmages. We have outreach events that happen where we need to show to either funders or outreach type opportunities, schools and science fairs and things, what the program is about. So keeping your robot put together and being able to go onto some of these other opportunities to share it can extend the season and make it more exciting for the students. Do you get to choose which qualifier? You'll see a list of qualifiers. You get to choose and rank the ones that you want to go to. So if you only pick one and you're only available on one day, I hope you've registered early and have paid early. You'll be much better off if you are a little bit flexible and can choose 1 or 2 locations or 1 or 2 days. We expect to get most people into their first choice, but we also have to load balance our events and make the smaller events need to have enough teams to compete. And some of the locations, for instance, right smack in the middle of Bellevue, we often do not have enough spots there. We usually plan enough spots for the teams that live there, but I can't quite control who registers to go there, if that makes sense. So we often have people kind of moving around because things work on a better day and they're not as concerned about the location. Others are concerned about the location and not the day. So we'll do the best that we can. You will have choices and we'll be able to prioritize your choices. What else do we have? Yep, I think I've got most of the questions. If there's not many other questions, you're seeing the documents that you care about. I hope you have downloaded the Coach's Handbook. That is a wealth of information this year. I also hope I did not have them on my slides. There is a Coaches, a First Start series that First has sent you a link to join at Schoolology, and that gives you way more guidelines than we've ever had before written down for kind of how to manage a team. With the documents you care about, there's also some web pages that you care about, where the challenge is, where the game updates are, how to keep your team information updated, the rubrics. There's also the FLL will explain the game on the YouTube channel. Some other resources for coaches, you can get to our firstwa.org website. The tab on the right is for team resources, and under First Lego League you will find various resources that are helpful. Some of them right now are grant applications, or we have a page for downloads, which is where I will host this slide deck. We also have all of the coach emails that have been sent out for the season are under a communications tab. So that's a wealth of resources for Washington specific things. If it has to do with the overall program, the game, the challenge, you'll want to look at firstinspires.org, the main First headquarters website. Lego Education, if you're missing some parts, you can order some additional sensors and things. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the state this year to connect new coaches. We have seen a need for coaches wanting some mentoring of their own, and how do we go about that? So these next 3 or 4 things here are related to getting coaches connected with other coaches. So we have a couple of things. The coaches coffee events, all it takes is a willing person to host and say, I'll be at a coffee shop for an hour or 2 on a particular day. And if you will post that and give that information to me, we'll let other people sign up, and you can just come and chat with each other and find out who locally is doing this program together and commiserate or celebrate. We also have a private Facebook group for Washington coaches only. The link is in the coach emails to ask to join that group. We are also beginning a coach mentoring program. We have many veteran coaches who they're happy to share what they know and how they run their teams. So that link is also in the emails, and then you can email me if you are stuck and need some help finding those things. If you need to know about programming the EV3, when we had a challenge 2 years ago called World Class, one of the fabulous FLL teams created this website, and it is a huge, huge, wonderful resource for learning how to do the EV3, do some basic programming with it. Minnesota has been doing First Lego League on a little bit bigger scale than we have for a few more years. They have put together some fabulous resources. Theirs is a very well-developed program, and they have some great things to check out there. Wrapping up, I'm going to run one more piece of the question box and make sure we've answered most everything. If this presentation is going to be available online, the recording will be with it eventually it has to be converted. If you need to contact us, I can be reached by email. Jackie Grimm is our events assistant. She'll be doing some team communication. If you need help with how do we register and do some things on your site. If you are needing some help with advocacy and fundraising, working with the legislature or superintendents or any challenges, both good and bad, you can loop in Erin McCallum, our president. She has relationships with many people across our state that can help get some things happening. And that's about it where we are. I'm double checking the end of the questions. I think we got all of those. Looks like folks are taking care of the questions for me. Any more coming through?